Chapter 7. Pong woke up to a chicken pecking his foot. "Ah! Get away!" he shrieked, kicking the scrawny bird. The chicken squawked and fluttered into the brush. Pong cradled his injured foot in his lap. To be fair to the chicken, Pong's skin was so wrinkled and white from lying in the soggy mud that it did look like a maggot. Pong stood up and looked out across the gray-green water. The other side of the river was thick with trees. He looked up. This side of the river was thick with trees. There was no city, no buildings, nobody. In truth, Pong had drifted only a few miles south of Chitana, but to him it seemed as if he'd entered an impenetrable wilderness. He imagined tigers ripping the flesh off his bones and pythons strangling him slowly. What was he going to do? Where was he going to go? The sides of his empty stomach smacked together. Samkit must be having breakfast right now, he thought. He'd never been without his friend for more than a few minutes. To realize how far away they were from each other gave him an itchy, panicky feeling. A horn sounded upriver, and a large cargo barge floated slowly into view. Pong flattened himself onto the mud. As he waited for it to pass, his eyes went to his left wrist. He rubbed his thumb over the bright blue ink of his prison mark, as if that could make it disappear. All prisoners in Chitana were tattooed with the name of their prison. Pong and Samkit had gotten theirs when they were babies. The ink was permanent, set with the light from a powerful gold orb owned by the governor's office. No one could make it disappear, except maybe the governor himself. If anyone saw it, they'd know immediately that he'd run away. When a prisoner was released, the prison crossed out their mark with a line and added a little star symbol. Without that bright blue symbol, Pong was a fugitive. If he got caught, they'd take him right back. Worse, they might take him to Banglad, the men's prison. From the stories the guards told, Banglad made Namwan seem like a fancy hotel. The governor's words pounded in Pong's temples. Those who are born in darkness always return. Pong shivered and rubbed his bare arms. His journey in the trash boat might be the closest he'd ever get to walking free under Chitana's lights. Now he'd be lucky if he could manage to avoid being arrested. Heavy clouds hung overhead. The rainy season would arrive any day, swelling the river and washing out the roads. He needed to get moving, but where to? He couldn't go back to the city, but if he followed the river downstream, he knew it would eventually lead to the sea. The governor, the police, the warden, none of them had any power over him once he stepped off the sand. He could get on a boat that would take him out of their reach forever, where no one would have heard of Namwan or know what his tattoo meant. Pong had seen a picture of the ocean once in a book. In the picture, the water wasn't gray-green like the river. It was blue. That color of blue filled Pong's mind as he put his head down and started walking south. He kept to the ditch along the river road so that he could duck out of sight whenever a rare ox cart came rumbling by. The day turned hot and sticky. Sweat rolled down the side of his nose and dripped into his mouth. Now he begged the rains to start so he could have something to drink. He did manage to find a clutch of hard green bananas growing along the road, but by midday his hunger hurt so bad he thought he would faint from it. All morning he had been drawing closer and closer to a cluster of small mountains, lumpy and green at the top, with sheer gray sides where the rock was too steep for the jungle to cling to. The road made a bend to the right, then back to the left, and then all of a sudden the mountains loomed right above Pong. Here the road split. The main road turned inland, far away from the river. A narrower track, barely wide enough for an ox cart, continued on, straight toward the mountains. Pong frowned. Could this be right? Those dumb mountains seemed to be perched right along the river, standing smack between him and the sea. He didn't like the idea of climbing a mountain with nothing but green bananas in his belly. But what if the main road never led him to the sea at all? What if it led to a town? What if people stopped him and asked questions? If anyone saw his tattoo, he didn't think he'd have the strength to run away. Pong chose the mountain track. Good decision, he told himself as he huffed on up the track, as it wound around the mountain, as the river got farther and farther below the gray cliffs. Very good decision, he thought, as night fell, as he curled into a ball under a bush, half on the road, half off it, as the clouds finally cracked open and released a river of rain.